على خير المرسلين محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد يقول الله تعالى في القرآن الكريم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Today's subject is technically it's family appeal number 3, but that was a question last time about jinns, and so I just went into it to go over it again to make sure we was on the right road. The word jinn is derived from jannah, meaning he covered or concealed or hid or protected. All Arabic lexicologists are agreed on its Arabic origin, and moreover, there's numerous words in the Arabic which are derived from the same root as the verb jannah, meaning it covered or overshadowed. It could also mean a garden. I'm going to just ad-lib instead of, we talked about it before, like garden, because a garden is hidden inside overseas. Here, gardens are outside. In many places overseas, gardens are inside. You go inside, and then all of a sudden, there's a garden, or maybe a fountain, or something inside the house. So, Jannah means it's covered, it's hidden, but it also relates to Jannah, a paradise. Then there's things related to old Shaytan and the Jinn. You know, he refused to bow down to Adam because he figured Adam was made out of clay and he was made out of fire. It says extremely hot fire, fire free of smoke is so hot. So when he was told to bow down, he said, I'm not going to bow down because I'm better than he is. Now, just in passing, I want to make the point that in Christianity, Lucifer was a fallen angel. But in Islam, that's not possible because an angel cannot do anything but what he's told to do. Say, we hymn the praises of Allah. So he was not an angel, he was from amongst the jinn. Now, here's something that relates to men. And we made the wind subservient to Solomon. It made a month's journey in the morning and a month's journey in the evening. And we made a fountain of molten brass to flow for him. And of the jinn, there were those who worked for him by the command of his Lord. So these jinn were foreigners. That's because that's another word for jinn. Jinn is, you don't see them, they're foreigners, they're way over there, they exist. Even what we used to see in the microscope now used to be considered a jinn because you couldn't see it, right? A germ. So biologically, you couldn't see those things are part of creation. They actually make up everything, but you couldn't see them. So they were, in those days, considered jinn. Okay, now, okay, I won't use up all the time on that. In the Quran, under the head of foreign believers. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, say, it has been revealed to me that a party of Jinn listened. So they say, surely we have heard a wonderful recital, the Quran, guiding to the right way, so we believed in it, and we shall not set up any other Lord other than Allah. So now history tells us that when the Prophet ﷺ went to Taif, he had been cut off and isolated so much in Mecca that he was going out to do dawah in other places. So he went to Taif. They ran him out. So much blood was coming down his body that it soaked his shoes, and he actually prayed for the people. Now, at that time, when he was coming back, it is said that when this revelation came, that a group of jinn heard this recital. Now, you have to remember that what was happening in Medina at this time? The Jews had received revelation. The Jews was considered the wise people of Al-Medina and what have you. And they told the Arabs, they said, look, y'all gonna get yourself a prophet because y'all the seed of Abraham, too. And so, of course, they didn't expect nothing to happen. Then, when the prophet popped up, they said, the people of Al-Medina, the Arabs, went to their normal rituals in Mecca. The Arabs, Jahiliyyah. During that time, they went to see the prophet. This revelation came down when he left Taif, that a group of jinn, the foreigners, the people there at that time in Al-Medina, they were foreigners. They heard the recital of the Quran. They said, man, this is deep. It's better than what sent to Moses, And plus the Christians talking about this plurality of gods. This is great. This is from Surah Jinn. Jinn. So Jinn, I'm going to speed up. So Jinn don't mean just either people or spiritual beings. It means both. That's why spiritual beings wouldn't be working for Solomon, you know what I mean, making iron stuff and all that, And in fact, the jinn helped build the Temple of Solomon. But they didn't think it was a... Do y'all remember in the Quran when it's talking about the little ants was gnawing at Solomon's staff? Okay. And then later it said, well, I might even have it here. Let me see if I can hustle it up. Because well, here's something else. Now, put thy hand into thy bosom. No, that's and they rejected these signs in inquiry and in iniquity and arrogance, though their souls were convinced thereof. See, what was the end of those who acted corruptly? Let me go on and see. We gave in the past knowledge to David and Suleiman, and they both said, praise be to Allah, who has favored us above many of his servants. And Solomon was David's heir. He said, O people, we have been taught the speech of birds, and on us has been bestowed a little of all things. This is indeed manifest from Allah. And before Suleiman had marshaled his host of jinns and men. That's one of the things I wanted. And notice he say he's been given a little. All great religious personalities never come arrogantly like, thank you, God, for just showing me the whole show. I'm just happy as I can be. Now I know everything. They always say that. A little, right? That because Allah is so there's no way for the human mind to hold this whole creation. In fact, Allah is so grand and so great. If He gave everybody in the earth 7 heavens and 7 earths, it wouldn't diminish Allah at all. Okay, there's something else. Commanding, make thou coats of mail, balancing well the rings and chains of armor, and work ye righteous, for be sure we see clearly all that you do. And to Solomon we made the wind obedient in the early morning. This is the one we already went through. But here, there are people that work for him as he desired, making arches, images, basins, large reservoirs, and cooking cauldrons, fixed in their place. Work ye sons of David with thanks, but few of my servants are grateful. Then when we decreed Solomon's death, nothing showed them his death except a little worm of the earth, which kept slowly gnawing away at his staff. So when he fell down, the jinn saw plainly that if they had known the unseen, they would not have tarried. What this means is, remember it says that Solomon and David, or David and Solomon. After Solomon, I forget his son's name, his sons laid out and he just had pleasure. You know, he was a pleasure seeker. And then the empire crumbled. When it talks about these jinns, here's what it says. The jinns looked upon their work as a penalty, and so it became to them. These people that was working up here, they considered that a penalty. Now the Bani Israel, or the children of David and Solomon, they considered building the temple a great religious thing. But the helpers that they got, captured people, you know, basically subjugated people from the area. They thought of it like what it was to them. This is just work, hard work. You know, like for us, this is slavery, man. This is picking cotton. Who wants to do that? So the jinn looked upon their work as a penalty, and so it became to them. The people who worked at the temple of Solomon, as the people of David worked and glorified in their work as a thanksgiving to Allah, and their work became sanctified. The jinns knew nothing of the hidden secrets. Then they saw the obvious, talking about Solomon's son. And now they're talking about empire. They go from personal stuff to empire. If they would have known the future, they would have never been there working, because they'd have said, it ain't no sense of hanging here. This ain't going to last but a little while longer, right? So why should we stay in subjugation? This is the same thing, the message we're putting to all our relatives. Hey, you know, why hang now? You can see what's going on. This boy is getting ready to go. So don't let your history govern your future, like slavery, oppression. Don't let that be your guideline for your future. Let your imagination grow and let that push you forward. So this is why we're talking a lot about family. So I was just mentioning this about jinns. What was in fact the last words of Quran? Bismillah. Kul a'udhu bi rabbin nas, malikin nas, ilahin nas, min shari waswasi khannas, alladhi yuwaswisu fi sudurin nas, minal janati wan nas. From amongst the jinn and the men. And Suleiman Marshall, here's one more just about Suleiman. When Suleiman wanted somebody to go and check on the throne of the woman, they said an Ifrit of the jinn, I will bring it to thee before thou rise from thy council. Indeed, I have full strength for the purpose and may be trusted. Here the footnote says, Ifrat, a large, powerful jinn, reputed to be wicked and crafty. Hence, he is anxious to be recognized as one that could be trusted. So it's the group of foreigners there, big old powerful jinn saying, hey, I'll go get that stuff in a hurry and I'll be right back before y'all even get up from sitting down here, right? So, so all of this about the jinn. The jinn is hidden. The jinn is made of fire, free of smoke. Adam is made out of mud or clay, right? Stinking mud, in fact. This is some stinking mud this guy made out of. Okay, so the jinn could be anything that's hidden, anything that's distant, and it could be anything that is hidden. And it could be, according to its reference, it's either a spiritual being or a physical being. So it could be both. That's the point I wanted to make. Yes, go ahead.
I noticed in that surah right there, Prophet Suleiman has them working for him.
Yes.
But then when we say in Surah Nas, we seeking, at the last surah, we seeking refuge from them. Like
Right.
they almost like Shaytan workers.
Well, Khannas, remember what it says before. Kul a'udhu bi rabbin nas, I seek refuge in Allah from the enemy of men. Bi rabbin nas, maliki nas, the king of men, Lord of men. And it's from the refuge of waswasa. Remember waswasa? Waswasa, Khannas is a pretty mean fella. He whispers stuff into your heart, then he withdraws after whispering. And you think you messed up yourself. So that's how dirty he is. You go rob a bank and get caught and you say, man, that was a dumb idea. I did this with this and I did that and I didn't take care of this. And you think you had the idea. It wasn't you. It was waswasa who whispered this into your heart. And then he backed up. So you can't blame him. If we know now, we can blame him now. But then even if you catch him, what is it that he goes say on them? No matter when the day is decided, no matter, and he will say on the day the matter is decided, surely Allah promised you a promise of truth. I promised you, but I lied to you. I had no authority over you except that I called and you obeyed me. So blame me not, but blame yourself. I cannot come to your help, nor can you come to my help. I deny your associating me with Allah. Surely for the unjust is a painful chastisement. Now, all this is, and in the word, they're using in this ayat, mushrik and all that, that the Shaytan is calling you, and the devil will say when the matter is decided, surely Allah promised you, the whole Quran, He promised you the truth. I lied to you. That's my name. Deceiver, deception, right? To deceive, to slip around, the slinking devil, you know what I mean? Waswasa, whispering, his whole crew got these characteristics. Allah gave you a promise of truth. I lied to you. That's my job. See my job description? Deceiver, liar, deception, intrigue. Oh, he got a name tag on, right? That's what it say. I lied to you. I didn't have no authority over you. I just whistled and you came a running. Don't blame me. Blame yourself. And then he clarifies it. I can't help you. You can't help me. And I deny your act of shirk, associating me with Allah. You gave me that authority to whisper up on you, slip up on you, and get you acting a fool. I deny that. I ain't gonna have nothing to do with it. That's you. That's the Quran. This guy is pretty bad. So that's what happens. That's why we're seeking Kul a'udhu birabbin, what is it? Kul a'udhu birabbin nas, maliki nas, ilahi nas, min shari waswasi khannas, alladhi yuwaswisu fi sudurin nas, minal jannati wan nas. So you're seeking refuge from both, from this low-down stuff, from men and jinn. And another ayat in the Quran, it uses the word ins and jinns. Hey man, the Quran is a book of guidance. That's why when the people in Medina heard it, they said, we done heard a beautiful recital. That Surah 72 is called Jinn. That's its technical name. So anyway, let's get into what today's subject. And excuse me for going, what I want to do is start off with what I call possibilities. And this is from one of our newsletters. In fact, maybe the last one, 2012. We'll be doing new ones very soon. Thoughts are things. Imagine yourself consciously participating in humanity's evolution. No longer a witness to all that is occurring. Visualize yourself as a fearless bearer of positive life-affirming change. That I'm not going to be a victim of this anymore. I'm going to imagine yourself having life-giving knowledge, information, and direction. That now I'm not a victim of the environment. I'm sitting there, I can help. I can get involved in this. So it's life-affirming change. It does not matter whether your brain can comprehend the future. All that is required is that your heart be willing to co-create a peaceful world where harmony links us together as one. Remember when we was talking about the future the other day, we were saying, we just want you to have the desire to be big, the desire to want to change things, right? The desire to, you don't have to say, I got it, I'm going to do it. You don't have, you just have to have the desire to want to grow, to want to improve. We can click that boy off now for just for a minute there. Okay. Your mind has the tremendous ability to expand beyond its human limitations. Command it to grant you access to the wisdom, knowledge, and technologies of life, and be amazed at the generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Feel yourself in the presence of creativity, exploring wholesome new living environments. Embrace the spiritual freedom to build a world that is in harmony with Allah's will. Now, I'm going to mention this to our relatives. I know this really sounds highfalutin, but you have to remember, and I'm writing this 12 years ago. No, not 12. 8 years ago, 2012, creating a new global harmony. That's when it was. Okay. You got to remember, in the old days, y'all was used to Big Hank right here, this sharp Negro. You was used to Oakland. You were used to seeing, you have to remember what happened in Oakland. Before we go any further, let's go over what happened in Oakland. Oakland was not an experiment. Oakland was a reality. All of our leaders were talking about black nationalism, or Martin Luther King in '68 had moved to Chicago to do, right? This whole, what did he call it? We call it East Oakland Enterprise. He called his a black economic enterprise zone. You know, they had poor people's money, all that. Now this is economic enterprise zone. Okay. You have to remember, now think back what we did in Oakland. We did different than all the other big Negroes in Oakland. Well, later big Negroes appeared. But we would say in Oakland we were the first, or we was amongst the first. But if you look at people that were so-called big in Oakland, like the Ward brothers, the Ward brothers got money for themselves. They were very famous. They was in Time, sort of Newsweek. You could see them at what's the name's fight, all sharp. They was okay. They made a movie, and Frank Ward and Frank Ward was killed. But the movie, The Mac, was dedicated. Just remember the credits to Frank Ward. Frank Ward was one of the oldest. He was considered the sharpest. And Frank Ward, it's a long story. He got mixed up with them white people, movie makers. And it's a long story. Anyway, so they got money for themselves. They got money for themselves, like anybody else, now and those days. They get money for themselves or their little crew. Okay, what was the difference between people that came even after? Now, y'all remember Felix Mitchell. Felix Mitchell was big, but I showed you pictures of Johnny Gunn, Johnny Bethia. Johnny Bethia was in charge of our security. Johnny Bethia was Felix's uncle. Johnny Bethia, when I left, he didn't have no work or anything to do, so the little guy running around there called Felix Mitchell. Johnny Bethia taught him. Now, y'all remember, y'all was there, so ask anybody around. Johnny Bethia taught him about organization. Pretty soon, Felix Mitchell was big. Down there in those projects on 69th, he got so big, he brought Clark Gable's mansion in L.A., and he did a lot of stuff. He was big, and he was wealthy. But by the time he finished, I had a little parole violation for a couple of weeks. I was in the county jail in San Francisco, and he was in the county jail. He was getting sent to Leavenworth, and he was telling me, man, he was telling me the system. He said, they did me wrong, man. They was blowing me up like I was, of course, I knew that's what they do. They take all Negroes. When they talk about kingpins, right? You see any white kingpins? You don't see no white kingpins. All Negro kingpins. Do you see any Negro importers of drugs or managers of anything? No. But all the kingpins, the kingpin law is for Negroes. So what they do is they build you up real big, like this is the king of drugs. And they've done that to several brothers, right, around the country. They get rid of them and don't know dope stop. They already got somebody else waiting to take his place. So we was talking, he said, yeah, man, they blew me up like I was, Darrell King was another one. Y'all remember Darrell King was in San Francisco? Boy, you would thought when they took him to Folsom, they had a bodyguard of I don't know how many sheriffs and police taking him to the penitentiary. But didn't know dope stop in San Francisco. Why? They blew him up and made him big and gave him a ton of time. He's still in the penitentiary now. That was, good God, that was 30-something years ago. Right? So I'm going to get back to all the big people. The big people, no matter what city, they all got money for themselves. Then what was different about Oakland when I was there? We used black nationalism techniques. Now, y'all was there, you can remember half of you had jobs, right? Okay. And I paid a good wage, just think about it. I didn't pay nobody starvation. Everybody got nice money for what they was doing. Even if you was a teenager working in the record shop, you got I don't know how much money. Okay. You got the same money that they would be making in GM out there in those days. The same amount of money, okay. Now, imagine what Oakland looked like in 69, 70, 71, those years. Imagine all the cars. Do you remember any period in Oakland when everybody was getting money? Why? Because we were circulating our money back in the community, right? Instead of the money, the dope dealer got the money, then he took it out of the community. Diamond rings, diamond watches, Mercedes-Benz, Cadillac. The money went out to somebody else. Before we sent the money out, we circulated it, and everybody, you see or try to remember any period in Oakland's history when everybody was doing that well. When I say everybody, I'm talking about especially East Oakland. Now, here's the mistake all the other gangsters made in Oakland with us. East Oakland starts from down at Lake Merritt, First Avenue, all the way out to 105th, right? From the estuary down by the airport at Alameda, all the way up to Piedmont and all the way up in the East Oakland Hills. They left that to us because all the gangsters, remember, was in West Oakland, 7th Street. The Ward brothers lived in East Oakland, but they was pimping it down in the other part of town because that's where the so-called bad party. They left us all of East Oakland. From Funktown to Sobrani Park, boy, I'm telling you, right? that was technically 70%. They left us 70% of Oakland. So when we came on the scene on the other side of town, they thought we was, where y'all come from? Because we came not as individuals. We came as an organization. As an organization, not just individuals. When we popped up, there we was, and people were shocked. A full-fledged organization with leadership structure, organizational structure, right? Control and distribution mechanisms. They said, man, what is going on here, right? That's the way everybody felt. Now, if the people felt like that, think what the government felt about that. Was that accidental? Absolutely not. I don't have the pictures here, but you could remember. Say around 68, that Black Panther look, stingy brims. And 2 years later, this other look. What happened? Oh, not 2 years later. The next year is because that look, you're studying all the time. That's the point I want to make about us. We are studying and evolving all the time. Not only in those days, right now. Right? We're studying and evolving right now. Our next writings will take in the last 8 years. You will be mind-boggled. If you think the last several years was very good, just wait till all this stuff is translated, you know what I mean, and organized and what have you, right? And put into writing. It'll sound like this stuff right here, because that's what the notes all look like. Imagine yourself consciously participating in humanity's evolution, no longer a witness to all that is occurring. Visualize yourself as a fearless bearer of positive, life-affirming change. That's where we didn't evolve to. But that was back then. That's why we was different in those days. We did, and Oakland was the right size, we did what everybody else was talking about. We already did that. Everybody's there and they saw it. You know, everybody's there. When I was in Africa and the Black Panther Party, most of them was half East Coast and all that, so technically they didn't know me. So they, you know, Pete O'Neill was security, took pictures and da-da-da-da-da. And then he told me, I said, well, what did you hear back from Oakland? He said, they said, you're a legend in your own time. In other words, they talked more about us. When you hear about Oakland, they talk about Huey Newton and all that. They didn't do that in those days. They talked about us because we had more influence on the city. Unbelievable as it is, it's like right now. You don't see us at programs talking and speaking all over. But we have a bigger influence on this whole movement than all them people with all of those. They have, when the coronavirus is not in, they have masajid people hanging out of the window. They don't have no place to pray, and they have satellites. Adams Center, whatever it is, it has 28 satellites. 28. Well, it had 10, then somebody told me they had 28 now. Satellites. Probably each satellite is like this. They on the road. They're on the road. But all the boys, when something come up, one Latino run all the boys off and they kill the girl right out there, right? Remember last Ramadan before last? Just run off. What kind of teaching is that? The Quran tells the men are the protectors and maintainers of women, so the boys ought to know. My grandson, several years ago, went over to I took him over to Dar al-Hijra. So he was 15 at that time, and he was hanging out with, they wasn't listening to the program. They was out running around the streets and everything. So the kids there said, there go our bikes. I said, there go y'all bikes? What do you mean? He said, they told him, those are our bicycles that these guys are riding. It was Latino brothers. We pro-Latino, but they should watch themselves on the bike. So anyway, he took the bikes back by himself and gave them their bikes back. You know what the head of security over there, the one that carried the pistol? Your grandson is very brave. I said, he ain't brave, he's just normal. You can't nobody come take your bike, right? You can't, but they take that. What kind of America, what are they teaching our kids? Right? So you can imagine we trying to ease up on them and tell them this type of truth. We got to ease up on them. We can't just kick the door down. We want you to build, you want to be in America, well, you help build it the way you want. Da, 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 da. It'll scare them to death. So we got to ease up on them and ho-hum. We got to ease up on them like the old Negro used to ease up on white folks. Oh, boss man, Lord have mercy. You're a good white man. And he wouldn't say you a good white man, but that was what the white man would get. And you so kind, I'd like to use your truck and stuff like that tomorrow. And by the way, my mule's is tired, and so that's what they used to do. So your tractor, that John Deere there, they had 4 tractors, right? Because I remember we had mules down in the country, but at certain times we'd be using Mr. Word's truck, pickup truck, and tractors. I used to ride on the tractor on the side. I was 6 and my brother was 19. He'd be driving the tractor. Of course, that's the reason I like the South, because I left before I did any work. Everybody else was glad, boy. I liked it because it was green. We go fishing, you know what I mean, in the bayou right there. Oh, I liked it. Nobody else, everybody that was had to work, I'd tell my father how nice, listen, go back to Arkansas. Oh, it's nice now. Because he had to work. But anyway, that's the way we have to deal with our immigrant people, right? Tell the truth. They won't invite us nowhere. We got to ease up on them, pat them on the back. Oh, the goal is to help humanity evolve. Our goal is not to become famous or they like us. Our goal is this job, this society. And think now, they haven't picked this up with what's going on now. Who needs to be informed about how crazy things are today? They do. They said not only that. They still want to, remember we went over there to that program? You remember the UCMO something or other? Yeah, they still want to vote and stuff, some of them. They still want to vote now. And it's clear, like, I don't know how nobody can see that all this is a big play. It's a big movie. The Democratic team, Republican team, and they don't want to fight this is a declared winner right here. No, they want to keep it close. So no matter how stupid Don acts, they keep saying the news, Don got a chance. Don, if he just say this and that. That's not true. I picked up on that 2000, might have been 2004. I was in California, and I knew George Bush didn't have no chance of winning. But Abdul Malik was saying Yeah, he was saying something different. He said, white folks ain't going to let so-and-so carry away, whatever it was. I said, oh, yeah? So I didn't say nothing, because I know for him to say that, the police had to tell him that. And he had the ends on and he didn't win. I was thinking the way things looked, it's impossible. He done drug everybody over there in the war, and man, the people is mad, right? He can't win that. But this system is totally controlled. Everybody is handpicked. You know, it's not just handpicked Negroes, it's handpicked white folks. And it's a few people that are not handpicked, but they go along with the program. Or they take cues. They know all the news people, they may not all be on the take, you know, but they know if I say that, according to the way this looks, I'm going to be out of the newsroom. In fact, I'm going to be out of a job. So they know. That's why if today China's a bad guy, China's a bad guy. They all get on it and they find a reason. If Iran is a bad guy, Iran's a bad guy. When Saddam was a good guy, Saddam was a good guy. Right in the middle of the stream, I'm telling you, they didn't even stop to change the reel. They just said, butcher of Baghdad, butcher of Baghdad, Saddam, butcher of Baghdad. I said, boy, these people, they don't. Hey, man, nobody said, wait just a minute. Last week, he was a good guy. He was on our team. Nobody said that. Weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. Weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. No weapons of mass destruction? Well, he ought to go to the penitentiary, or this is genocide and killed 1 million people over here, or 500,000 or 200,000, right? There's no weapons of mass destruction. He just lied and got all these people killed. He done destroyed the country. Iraq is destroyed right now. Syria is destroyed right now. Libya is destroyed right now, and they all did that to those people. They destroyed them. Afghanistan is destroyed. The Russians did the best they could, and the Americans come in and bomb what they had already bombed. There was nothing else to bomb. It's pitiful. Now you can imagine, or I can imagine my dear family listening to us talking this New Worldism. Let's see what we're going to. The growing chasm between the obsolete institutions of the 20th century and the destabilizing trends of the 21st century is a bad sign, which social actors can tilt history toward a great transition. That's what we talk, that's the name of this title. Multilateral bodies are feeble by the myopia of nationalism. The private sector is subject to the tyranny of the bottom line, and civil society organizations are limited by organizational and philosophical fragmentation. Collectively, actions for a sustainable and just global society remain too dispersed, diffused, and small scale. Progress painstakingly won here and there is overwhelmed by systematic deterioration. While the public awareness of emerging dangers grows, apprehensions breeds fear, resignation, and the absence of a compelling alternative vision. Now they say, oh, you didn't write that. Well, actually I did. It just don't sound like me. Why? Because I'm not writing this for me. I'm writing this for them, for everybody else. I already, you see how I talk, so if I write anything for myself, y'all know it's time to get ready to go and all of that. Okay, but that's not the language of everybody else. So you got to have a compelling vision. Great transitions. What is great transitions? It means that the world we want to make, the great transition is internal and external. We have to reconstruct ourselves so we can reconstruct the world. Dumb people cannot make a good world. They make a dumb world like the one that we have. We know the environmental circumstances pull at you and all of us. But we can either take it, we can either be blamed for everything, like they do with drugs. They put all the drugs here, right? They killed our movement. They destroyed our leaders, you know. I was watching with my daughter, you know, Bozeman, what's his name, that died yesterday, day before? Chadwick. So they was playing all of his movies. Last night, Marshall was on, and even before, the one Black Panther was on, you know, and all of that. So one of the things that these relatives from Wakanda, wherever it is, was trying to convince is that they kill all of those people's leaders. They kill all their leaders. Remember when they're in Oakland and they looking like me and you and they talk, they said they kill all their leaders. We got to get our stuff, right? And we got all this stuff and we want to share it with them Negroes, because if we do, they can free themselves up. They can help themselves. And that's what the whole argument about was basically about, that the white woman had a kid and the Killmonger was a kid. Now they're going to have to revive Killmonger some kind of way with some voodoo. Yeah, because if they make number 2, Chadwick is not there. So Killmonger, you know, the old priest with the bald head, he'll whoop up something out of the earth and blow some spirits. And no, Killmonger will come back. They got to, or they can't make nothing else unless, well, they put somebody else. But anyway, that was the argument, that all their people are killed. Everybody they got. And so everybody, did you go down to the play thing? I said, no, I didn't go down there. I said, because everybody there, I say, if Reverend Al was speaking at a funeral and he suggested they have the thing down there, why would I go? Right? Why would I go down there? I said, don't you remember the last one when Black Lives Matter or something? It wasn't black, it was Ferguson. Because the people, they had the whole lineup on, this is who gonna speak. And they had the old guy, I forget his name, I'll think of it in a minute. The one used to talk about slavery in Sudan and all that. And the Black Hawk, was it Black Hawk? Was Joe Madison, yeah. Yeah, Joe Madison and all them. That's who they had to speak. So I was listening to WPFW, and I heard in the background, let them speak. Do you remember that chant? Let them speak. They was talking about the people in Ferguson. So I gaveled up the family. I said, let's go. I'm ready to go now, because when I heard that, I wasn't going down there. I said, all them, I'm not anti-black, but all them niggas, ain't nowhere in the world I was going to go down there, because you know what it is. Not to change the subject, but when we went down there, it was a whole crew of people talking about Reverend Al got so many hundreds of thousands, 300,000 from, I don't know, a toothpaste company, somebody. You know what I mean? That it's so ridiculous. It's so outward. Why would we want to even, but then the people from Ferguson spoke. And so that's what brought it real. Everybody else was handpicked. They was handpicked. Party show is the theater. Remember down there the other week, the other month we was down there? And we on the microphone, we tell them this is theater, this is Hollywood, and there's then our homeboy, the big old white boy with the hair, right? I said, no, 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 no. First, we was being friendly with him, but we knew he was the police. And as soon as he got started, we knew he's the police, right? And he's gonna argue with the police, come get me, sucker, all that old stuff, right? To cause trouble down there. Now imagine, I'm telling y'all this, and I'm also inviting y'all to join the struggle to liberate America. I know it's not a contradiction. It's just filling you in on where we are. We are not a big Negro from Oakland, 1971. We are evolved. We've been evolving all the time. Just like we was evolving then, you got to remember, 1966 is different than 1970. We done evolved then, right in front of your face. You can't deny it. It's a big evolution. So you might have thought, well, if the white man run him off in 1971, well, he goes to Africa. That was good. What happens in Africa? You get educated. And colonialism. And I was so fortunate, Kwame Nkrumah's press secretary, I lived with him for a while in Algeria, because Kwame Nkrumah was kicked out of, Ghana. So when you go, everybody with you gotta go. So he gave me the game on colonialism. And imagine a press secretary. He could talk real good. When I left, going to Black Africa, he gave me a letter to Muhammad Babu. Kofi Bashar was his name. If you read Malcolm's book, you'll see his name in there. Kofi Bashar. In fact, I was speaking at Allen Temple Church, and all my family just relate, there's a preacher there. You know where Allen Temple got Mexican preachers, they got black preachers, and one is from Ghana. And when I preached at Tommy's funeral, I mentioned something about Africa. And I mentioned one of Mahalia Jackson's records. So he came to me and said, where could I get that? I said, shoot, I'll give it to you, I'll give it to you, I guess, But then he asked, so you were in Africa? And so we talked, and I said, yeah, I used to, you from Ghana? One of my friends was from Ghana, Kofi Bashar. He gave me a number with an 805. He said, right now, he's kind of not wheelchair bound, but when you get older. He's in Santa Barbara right now. I would imagine that was 10 years ago, so he's probably passed away by now. But anyway, the point I'm making, from Oakland to Africa is evolution. Can you imagine the amount of evolution that you make when you move from East Oakland to the whole African continent? And you learn about all of that colonialism, neo-colonialism, right? So you're prepared for the liberation of all of these new countries that are going to be liberated in the future. And you're aware of the history of the old colonialism, right? So you got a picture. Can you imagine how many books you have to read, how many classes you have to attend, how many years you have to go through all that? And I learned the whole story in 6 months. It's a crash course, right? So then anytime you read something after that about Africa, you know what it means. Yeah, King Leopold, he owned the Congo. Can you imagine one man owned personally the whole Congo? Good God Almighty. And the Congo that means what and then you got to imagine the period when we're back here. Now, for y'all wouldn't want to go to prison. But remember, how much time was I out of prison when I was young? remember? I go to jail, 1957, I come back in 1959. That's a long time for a kid, 14 years old, right? And I go back in 2 or 3 months, right? And I come out when I'm 16. Fred C. Nellis School for Boys. So you got to remember, and of course I stayed out a little while, a few months. I might even stayed out a year. Good God Almighty, that was a while. But I was right back. When I came home next time in 65, the whole world is different. Can you imagine when I went in jail in 62 or 63, 62, it was like the Stone Age, you know. And when I came out, freedom rides had passed. They had the March on Washington. They had all of that stuff going on. And I came out, when I came out, white folks was over here, black folks was over there. And I came home and all the white kids was trying to be with black kids, flower children, you know, I always talk about, and I got pictures of. I said, good God Almighty, what in the world is going on out here? I mean, this is really, you got to imagine, that's how fast it changed. I come home in 65, and they thought I was a mutant something. You don't drink no more? I said, no, I don't drink no more. You don't eat no pork? I don't eat no pork. I just took it a step further. I don't eat any meat. You don't eat no meat. You don't drink? No, I don't drink. You ain't even smoking cigarettes? No, I don't smoke cigarettes. Well, what do you do? This is a question. This was a question everybody, all my friends, they was looking at me like I just came from the moon. I just took a shot and just landed here from outer space. Because how many niggas in 65 didn't eat pork? We had grease cans on our stove, right? You had a grease can. I mean, to get real grease, the bacon grease. You didn't know about it. We might buy one thing of Crisco a year, but most of our stuff was cooked in bacon grease, and your cookies is made in bacon grease. Good God Almighty, that was nothing. The soap was made out of tallow weight. You know, tallow weight, I think is white folk call fat, tallow weight. Huh? No, I'm saying, no, well, you didn't know the soap was made by tallow weight. This is in the store already. No, we didn't make, no, look, but in the South, people, when they made soap, they took lye and they mixed it with the ashes, you know, the ashes, how smooth they are in the fireplace. They mixed those, and then they mixed the lard. That's how you made soap. They had white folks soap like that, lava. Remember lava? Yeah, shoot. So anyway, and then that old lye soap, the big block, suppose you left it in your hair too long. It would turn your hair red and it would almost straighten your hair, just the soap. Anyway, let's get back to the transitions. See, this is a family appeal. Y'all are looking at me according to what I was. Like that was big in 1970, 71. It is the biggest thing that happened there. People cannot I get tired of people reminding me, because that was their heyday. All my friends that were girls and all that, they used to love to ride up to the place. We felt like movie stars. They tell my kids, they're not kids now, they're 60-something years old. We felt like movie stars and all of that. That was their heyday. That's 100 years ago, right? We're not the same as we was then. We didn't evolve. That's what evolution is about. We didn't evolve to this point that we're able to take the models. When we say take a model, the masjid, school, business, geographical integrity, this is a model, right? This stuff worked. The stuff in Oakland worked. Those are models. Okay, the other stuff, we may not have paid as much attention to that for certain reasons, which I'll get to in a minute. And this holistic shift in the structure of society and its relation to nature, all aspects of culture are evolving. Developments in each domain, values and knowledge, demography, and social relations, economic and governance institutions, and technology and the environment interact with changes in the others in an amplifying and accelerating global process. The thread of connectivity grows longer and denser. Economic independence, far-flung cultural influence, earth-shrinking communications technology, geopolitical entanglement, and environmental degradation. In the whirlpool of transition, the very coordinates through which history moves, time and place, seem altered. Okay, we're talking about acceleration and change. You know the way everything is accelerating. It's speeding up. Global connectivity. The world don't even seem, Africa used to seem like a long way out. It seemed like it's right around the corner. Why? Because global communication, soon as something happened in Africa, it's right there on the news. It don't take 2 weeks for the news to get here, right? You see it right there, right in live. The time it takes to get places is shrinking all the time. In other words, but this shrinkage makes the solution global solution, human solutions, right? Not national solutions. Okay, so we'll just hit one or two more and then we'll Great transitions examine the worlds that transcend reform, going on to embrace new values and changes the precepts of the global development. One variant, eco-communalism, encompass the small is beautiful, visions favored by some environmental and anarchist subcultures. However, it is difficult to envision how a patchwork of self-sustaining communities could emerge from our increasingly connected world, except perhaps in recovery from collapse. Although small is beautiful, might look good after the global collapse. But we want to avoid a global collapse. That's why we don't want the world to collapse. But if it stayed moving like it's moving, there's only one way it could go, is collapse. There's nothing, okay, let me finish up here. Let's see, increase the world accept. New sustainability paradigm variant sees globalization not only as a threat, but also as an opportunity to construct new categories of consciousness, global citizenship, humanity as a whole, the wider web of life and well-being of future generations, alongside a governance structure that balances the twin goals of global unity and regional pluralism. In other words, this thing, I know the stuff we talk sounds not out there, but when we started this stuff over a decade ago, it seemed like, no, it was actually almost 2 decades ago, because that one on, that new global optimism and somewhere over the rainbow and all that stuff, that sounds like fairy tales. Well, that's what the song says. Somewhere over the rainbow, dreams come true, something like somewhere I heard in a lullaby, like a fairy tale. Well, that's what the stuff that we talked about then, this stuff here, sounded like an unrealistic approach to a real world that we're confronted with. But it don't sound like that now. You know what I mean? In other words, people are catching up. We shooting on ahead, but we have to stay back. If we don't stay relevant, we'll become like Dick Gregory. And I have in my notes, avoid Dick Gregoryism. Dick Gregory, until I heard the Malcolm tapes, the Malcolm 30 lectures, you ever hear him? He mentioned, Dick Gregory talks in there, 1964. The guy was right about all the stuff he was saying, but after a while, he's kind of out there a ways. Right? Yeah, Dick kept on going. Yeah, he didn't, I heard him talking about lipstick, the lipstick mean this, that. I said, that's fine, but it's out there. It's not functional. You know what I mean? So those radio shows too that they had when I came here, whatever that radio station used to be right down there on the corner, WOL, all of them. I was shocked when I got here at first. I said, man, they got black radio stations where people call in, they talk about this, they talk about that. Till I listened for a while, I said, man, this is a release valve. All the people call in are just talking. They're talking. And for them, talking is movement. You should have heard last night some Negroes, doctors, something or other, and all of the. I said, hey, man, I'm glad we do what we do. Now, they done did tons of research on different migration periods, the migration of the 1910s and what that happened, and kind of where we are now. And they won't do nothing, they can't do nothing, and they're not even prepared to do anything but talk. Okay, let me speed up a little bit. Because remember, I'm saying all this to invite my dear family. Yet you can't hide now. Now, look here, you can't run away. Look, what do y'all want from your dear relative? We knock Oakland over so slick, it's unbelievable. Right? People still don't believe it. And it was because East Oakland Enterprises wanted to rise the whole environment up. We did. Remember all them niggas that was driving Cadillacs in? Everybody had a Cadillac. Everybody that wanted one had one. And if they didn't have one, remember I used to go buy niggas brand new Cadillacs. Now, how many people do that? Tell the truth. Go buy people, brand new. Y'all know it. Everybody there know that. And there's some you didn't even know that I bought for people. Right? And remember I was in my 20s then. Early 20s. This stuff is, so we did the black national, everything that Malcolm talked about, we did, and we were fortunate enough to live in Oakland, not Chicago and New York. Oakland was just the right size. to pull that off. Everybody see it, everybody know it, and it okay. But then, remember, how many people survived Boss Man? When Boss Man, y'all thought he had me trapped in the corner, I just run off all the way over there. Not to Mexico or Canada. No, indeed. I said, I'm getting away from Boss Man, and I'm going where Boss Man reach is not there. The only thing, I learned more about Boss Man by learning more about colonialism. And guess what? I learned that Boss Man was over there too. All hands on deck. Boss Man was there. Then maybe a little time in Europe, Scandinavia, but think about it. Think about South America. How many Negroes do you know, I don't know any, went to South America and established the first drug smuggling cartel? Remember when my partner went by and got some money from your dear grandfather or father and brought it down to me, and everybody that came down to visit me got rich. Remember? Rich. I mean, not just, they was richer coming down there to see me than I was when I was here. Instantaneous rich. One of my partners that brought the money, I talked to him for 30 days. We walked in the hills, he was a boxer. And I gave him the game. See, then I was a godfather. I had the game down pat, because see, remember, I went out first. They got the first Negro that did this, first Negro, well, I'm the first one that did a functional black nationalist program. Not the first, the only one. Let's get in there and look at the cities. Where did this happen? Where else did this happen except in Oakland? But they don't talk about it. They talk about the Black Panther Party in Oakland. Now, y'all was in Oakland. Who was they talking about, us or the Black Panthers? And what did the Black Panthers look like? Us. Why? Because half of them had been in the Panther Party, and they knew that this is blacker than the Black Panthers. This is black, right? Because you get black and you eat and you drive and you resting and dressing. Hey, you go out and do the party. Anyway, would you turn the cool on just a little bit? Anyway, so y'all remember what happened. Okay. So I was telling my partner, just don't do this, don't do that. This is how you get big and stay big. Don't buy no fancy clothes, don't buy no fancy, just look, we used to call it under, just be under. Because I was a bull, I had all these cars. I said, now that's all right for getting fanfare and becoming a target, but don't you do it. And the first time it went well. Second time it went well. Third time it started getting a little funny. By the fourth time, hey, how's everything? Well, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So I used to call it no saberitas. Remember I told you I had a medical dictionary? And you know how niggas make up stuff. I said the people in Oakland have a new disease. It's called no saberitas. You know, sabi to know. I said every time I call them, the niggas say, I don't know. It's a new disease. No saberitas, because I was making it up. But you got to have fun in life or you're going to go crazy. No, if people sticking at you, cutting at you, trying to blow you up every day, all the time, if you don't have a sense of humor, hey, man, you're going to quit. So anyway, I said, and one of my friends, the main one, when we talk, my son's on the phone anytime, they say, yeah, Dad, I'm on the big end now. Because my favorite friend that got super rich, he sent word back to me. He said, tell so-and-so I'm on the big end now. In other words, he's on the big end. He's there in Oakland. And of course, just to be brief, after he got cut off, he swam around for about a year, And then he's fat broke. He don't even have a car now. He had a car in 30, 40 years. But he was on the big end. In other words, I'm on the big end now. What was the big end? This woman went and brought a brand new Jag. He brought a Vet, Jensen, something, all kind of cars. He went down to Eastmont Mall and bought a 5-carat diamond ring out of the store. So I said, boy, the Negro is really something. But here's the point. It was so funny because people don't understand what they're looking at. In fact, y'all ask your uncle, my brother. Ask him when he came down to visit me in Mexico, where was he staying and where was I staying? Now this is when I'm rich now. This is doing all this stuff. I'm rich actually, but I done got stingy. I'm staying. I done learned the lessons, so I lived in not the cheapest hotel, but almost. You know what I mean? And dear, whoever he was staying at the Ramada downtown, all this big fancy. And I'm the one getting everybody the money. So my family member was looking at me like I was looking. And he actually thought, because I was sending messages up there, we need people to do this, we need people to do that. He thought that they was taking all the money and I wasn't getting nothing back, and that I was basically broke. It was exactly opposite of that. Because you do so much good business that you can afford all the Negro losses, you can afford them. Shoot, we were supplying blow up to New York, and all them big Negroes in New York, they didn't even know they was getting it from another Negro. They thought they was getting it from somebody else. But anyway, so my relatives looks at me, and I'm talking to that. I think he's drinking either Hennessy or something like that. It was some expensive. He said, well, if it get too bad, you could go out on the beach and start begging. I said, I don't know how much money I had in the room. It just was ridiculous. I just came back from Africa. You know what I mean? It was evident to anybody that was thinking, maybe he was just drinking. Well, if it get bad, he ain't saying if you get bad, I'm up in America, I'll send you a few $100s that'll, in those days, you could last for 10 years in Mexico. You know what I mean? Ain't saying that. It's just saying you can beg. You could go out on the beach and beg like a beach bum. So I'm saying that to say all of my family have made a wrong decision compared with me. You've accepted the white man's story of me, not the real story. You've accepted the white man has been here. The white man, when you come out of the university, college, they got a pamphlet, join up the FBI. And so you think that the white man, y'all have been studying and you've been watching my whole life and you have been mistaken in what you are seeing. What I'm telling you is the whole life has been evolution, all of it, from them little kiddie pens. I was in the kiddie penitentiary so I could learn the system. When you, just like you've been in the Army since the time you was a baby, you not going to be scared of the Army later on, right? So if I've been in these little jail, one institution is the same. If you're in the Navy, if you're in the Air Force, right? If you're in the Army, you're a part of institution. In fact, they could change you over to one and you wouldn't miss a step. The institutions, the institutionalization, they think it's bad. For some people, that nigga institutionalized. It wasn't bad for me. Institutionalized means I have never been afraid of boss man. I just haven't been afraid of him because he been had me in his penitentiary all the time, and I just have not been afraid of him. We used to fight him all the time. That's why I never come back home in time. I get 6 months and I come back home 2 years later as a kid because messing up in the white man's jail. But you got to think about it. What I'm learning there is necessary for me. It's training me, it's teaching me. Why? If I'm making a fool out of the white man in jail, he has to send me to the hole, to segregation, to adjustment center, to isolation all the time. And there you're by yourself. And you learn good lessons. You know, the way you want to get people in line, isolate them, kick them out of the community, right? They was doing that for 100,000 years. If you exile somebody from the society, right, they, in fact, that's part of Islam. They exile them from the society for a year, you know, maybe a few lashes, stuff like that. Okay, that straightens people. Suppose you get put in a hole over and over again, and it has no effect on you. You learn how to live in isolation. You learn how to appreciate isolation. And the best thing is you learn how to appreciate yourself. That's the difference between all. You have to remember. Everybody else is gone. You got to look, there are no heroic Negroes left. They're either in jail or dead, right? They done run everybody off. And the brothers, my friends that come out of jail after 35 or 40 years are not prepared to do this. They didn't have enough. That's not bad. What y'all did or are doing now is not bad. It's normal. It's normal for people to cooperate with a system. It's absolutely normal. What else you gonna do, right? The only thing is that when it comes time to evolve, are you ready to evolve? That's what I'm asking. I want y'all to participate. We need to evolve in organization, in structure, in discipline. And what do we think about it? We've been thinking about it all along. It's no accidents that we just popped up and got lucky. Let me find a few things here. This is old, to-do list 2009. That's 11 years ago. That's a while back. This is the outline we should have: strategic management under conditions of repression. I'm going to just read a few things. First of all, as a saying, says Allah, I treat my bondsman according to his expectation of me, and I am with him when he remembers me. So the first sentence of this tradition suggests that a slave of Allah receives a treatment from him according to his expectation. This is what Allah is saying. I treat my servant according to what he expects. If, for example, he is hopeful of Allah's mercy and kindness, he will find himself merciful and kind. A Muslim should therefore entertain hope for the best from Allah and mold his life accordingly. Now, number one, this is 2009. Move to becoming a $150 million organization within 10 years. That is about January 2019. This is to be achieved with absolutely no dealings in riba or per our policy since the time of our humble beginnings. We currently own and operate close to 15 million in our property. Now, you got to remember, the property in Oakland that we own and the property here. The other property, at this time, we had about 7 or 8 functional masajid. But the one here and the one in Oakland was the only one that we kept as owned. The other brothers and all of them was operating the way they, basically not the way they wanted, but we didn't put no stress on them because we knew who they was. Now, act in a heroic level, remain optimistic, hopeful, and focused. Exercise transformational leadership, transform ourselves, transform others, train followers to become leaders. Keep in mind, this is number 4, your habits will determine your future. This applies to individuals, organizational, and communities. I want to go back to this one. Becoming a $150 million organization within 10 years. Why would we say something like this? And we're 1 year past that. But how are we going to get that kind of money? Well, just think what has happened since then. Suppose we sue the government. Now, you got to remember all the stuff they did. We don't have to hit pay dirt on all of them. All we have to do is hit pay dirt on some of it, right? Suppose we don't get nothing, but we have writers, editors, and we will make the same thing in books and literatures, right? And exposure. We will have exposed the system because our goal all the time was to bail the cat. Our goal all the time, when we surrounded and boxed in, you could tell that's what we're surrounded and boxed in. Our goal is to bail the cat, to tell all other Muslims, this is the bad guy. If you can remember, all of the lectures, everything was related to that. Bailing the cat. Okay, now, y'all know the story, Bell and the cat. All the animals got together, and the cat that was eating, the big animal eating up everybody. So they said, we got to stop this. What are we going to do? They had a big meeting. They finally decided to put a bell out. Even if I tell it 100 times, it's still new to me. Yeah, so anyway, they're going to put a bell around the cat, like a cowbell or something that makes a noise. So he won't be able to catch nobody and eat him up. So that's what we're doing with the system. That's what we've been doing all the time, telling everybody, this boss man right here. Here he come. Here come boss man. Oh, y'all having a demonstration? Well, this is the kind of demonstration that is. Guess what? It always came out like that. Why? Because we're telling everybody, this is what you're having. All the stuff they're having day in and day out is because that's our job, to tell everybody, And it just so happens we live through it. We stay alive. And we may not get $150 million. Shoot, we may get it more than that, according to what we want to. Or we may get 100 million. Suppose we have a bad day and get 25 or 30 million. That's going to be terrible. But we'll be able to live with that. Yeah, sure we will. But how do we figure out we're going to get it? He's going to surround us, and we ain't going to be able to get it ourselves. And you sell a lot of books to get this kind of money, right? So what are we going to do? Why not get it from him? Psychological guerrilla warfare. Why not trap him into doing all of the stuff that he did? Why not trap him into doing it? He did it. It's on the record, right? He can't get away from it. He did all of that stuff. All of it is illegal. Then he had FBI come in here at different times Them people that showed up that they know, I can record. This is where they were. This is what happened. This is what they said. You shouldn't go out to Oakland, da-da-da-da-da. So we bailed the cat. Without a planned strategy, we are subject to wherever the winds of change take us. We surrender our determination and limit ourselves to prevalent trends, currents, and circumstances. One thing we learned in jail is that you can have a plan, and actually you can do the plan. We learned from Oakland. They came, my same friends that come down there to South America, they came to lead me away from movement. That's what the easing into drugs. You know, every time when I got cases and I was in retirement a little, when I was ready to come out of retirement, one of our old friends, J.S., come by with big connections to the white boys that's got the whole show. And I'm out of retirement and moving big. You know, one time I told one of my partners, I was over his house. We grew up together. He was older than I was. So he was big on the other side of town. And he was laying down on the couch watching TV, and I could see his head, a bald spot, you know, like Joe Louis had in his day. Just a little bald spot. And he was a pimp. That's what he was. So he was telling me, well, at least I'm going to be able to keep me 1 or 2 holes just on game, if not on physical strength, you know, on psychological game. So he said, well, what about you? How's everything? I said, man, if the white man let me go for 3 more weeks, it's all over. I done already bought a super shipment. And if they let me go 3 weeks to get rid of that shipment, it's all over. The whole show is over. So I turn on the record. I like right on time. It don't come when you want it, but it'd be right on time. And that happened. It happened over and over again. Enough to blow you out of the water or to blow them out of the water. Teach and operationalize a lesson of acres of diamonds. Anybody remember the story, Acres of Diamonds? Acres of Diamonds is, I'll be quick. A guy in South Africa had a farm. I'm imagining South Africa. And he heard all these stories about people finding diamond mines, you know, and getting rich. So he sold his farm. And he went all around Africa searching for diamonds. Finally, I guess he's getting old. He maybe committed some type of suicide. There's 2 parallels to that story. But anyway, in this story, the guy that bought his farm, he had a friend that was some kind of geologist or something. And he came by his house and visited him. Hey, how you doing? So it was some rocks right there on the, you know, over the fireplace. It was a big rock there. He said, the guy's geologist, do you know what this is? Yeah, it's a rock. I said, the stream is full of them down there. The stream is full of these rocks? You know, because see, diamonds, everybody think diamonds is all shiny when they come out, but they're not. You got to polish them boys up. You got to get them ready. He said, this is the biggest diamond I have ever seen. So the guy, they went down to the stream, and at first, they opened a mine later, but at first, the water done washed all these little pieces of rocks down, and they're picking up diamonds. That's why it's called acres of diamonds. It became the richest diamond deposit on the African continent. And the guy that owned it sold it, went around looking for diamonds everywhere, and he was on the biggest deposit. That lets us know everybody trying to scare us away from the Negro, trying to have Negroes mess with us all the time, and we say, I'm tired of them niggas, I'm gonna go with somebody else. No, acres of diamonds, this is where it's at. We're not leaving the Negro, they can't run us off from the Negro. They can't scare us off from the Negro. Acres of diamonds, they're diamonds in the rough. Influence the direction of change. Ship of my life must be directed toward the destiny. This is important. Implement the psychological strategy of inverse paranoia. Our oppressor is actually conspiring to help us. That's what inverse paranoia, everybody gets scared, the white man is gonna do this, oh man, everybody out to get me. But you change it to inverse paranoia. Everything they doing it to help you. That's why we go back to Oakland when we get ready, because they're helping us out there. Everything they do is to help us. Why? One, because that's the way we see it. And then it becomes like that. The police, they doing all that dumb stuff, and after a while we say, man, they must be trying to help us. And now we're sure they're trying to help us, because they're doing all this dumb stuff on record. They used to do it hidden and nobody see it but me. That's not fun, because you can't tell nobody, well, boss man did this. Because pretty soon they like you, but they'll be thinking, brother's out there a little way. He's out there with Dick Gregory. Right? Yeah. But then what do? You raise it up to the level of visibility where you make injustice visible, where they can see it. Everything happens with us, they can see it. Okay. This attitude results in 20% of our thinking being spent on the problem and 80% being focused on the solution. Most people, when they do stuff to you, all you think about, they did this, they did that. Well, you have to think about that stuff sometime. You can't be Pollyanna and say, that's not happening. But you spend 80% of your time on the future. That's the way our lectures are scheduled, just like that. We talk about the stuff that happened, but we talk about possibilities. To be written, our Declaration of Independence, People's Grand Jury from Oakland, D.C., with which we will indict the federal, state, and local governments on charges of general oppression and high crimes. Book of coincidences, all our writings, when we say this and when we say that and it comes out, the book of coincidences mean that this is a lot of coincidences, and we're going to write a book on coincidences. Technically, the book is written. All we have to do is organize it. This happened, that happened. So you call it what you want. We call it the book of coincidence. Book of circumstances. You know, you can win a case on circumstantial evidence sometime. All of those things are here. They're present, and we've been, the last thing before I close, I want to close with, this is evolution. These are titles of different parts of this lecture. This lecture is given at the University of Tehran. What do you think? Have you ever seen or heard of any Negro that have the front page of any newspaper in the world where, and they done translated his lecture into their language, and he's outlining the stages and the phases of organization and structure for where you want to go in your country. How you have to unify the parliament with the people and everything else, right? That's real. Now, what do you think Boss Man thinks about that? I got other pictures. What do you think he thinks about? I'm telling you about evolution. That's evolution. That means you got to stop thinking about me as a slick nigga back 50 years ago. Everybody thinks, man, I saw Big Hank yesterday. Big Hank's 50 damn years ago. I've had 50 years of experience. No, I haven't. I've had basically 500 years of experience. Y'all have had 50 years of experience since then. If I've had 10 times the experience with the government as y'all, I done learned 10 times as much. Think about it. So if we got Malcolm, we have to be 10 times ahead of Malcolm. This may be the crackpot bunch. Remember you wasn't here the other day when I had the crackpot bunch called. Let me see. Oh, okay. This is not there. Assalamu alaikum.
Where's my phone, Dad?
Yes,
Down with my ship?
I sure am. Just in the middle.
Oh, all right. Well,
Okay.
bye.
Bye. Anyway, let me change the subject for a minute. The other day we had the phone. I don't know if you was watching. We had the crackpot line open. Remember that? Yeah. And the niggas called. They called on I said the crackpot line is now open. So anybody wants to call, it wasn't 2 seconds. Ring, 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 ring. I didn't answer it, but I looked at the number. I said, now, can you imagine? That's just having fun. You know what I mean? That's actually having fun. And we do that all the time. Imagine when you get things to the level where at first you are oppressed. And then you kind of get a little feel where you can have some influence over things. You ain't running nothing, but you got 10% of the stuff in your environment you can influence. Now, that's not bad, because if anybody look at their life, how much control do they have of their life? No more than 10%. They got to go to work. As white folks, they got to pay for this and pay for that. You know, they got a Pepco, everybody, right? So who controls their own life? Hardly nobody. If you control 10 or 15% of your own life, that's good. So at first you're oppressed. And then you start getting a little feel for things. And then as you move on, you start getting a little even with Boss Man. And pretty soon, remember, he does stuff to you, but you continue to evolve. He don't evolve because you can see out there the cars and stuff like that, or a hole in the roof. He can't evolve any further than that. He can't. Can you imagine? That's where he wants me to stay. That's 15, 20 years. That's I don't know how long. We don't even respond to that, but by laugh. Yeah, man. When we was fixing your roof, you can see somebody pull the thing off the roof. You can see it. So it ain't no big deal. You have to respond to it. That's where the 20% come in, right? But you don't spend your time focusing on that. That's your focus. And pretty soon, there's a type of liberation have where you can influence the direction of change with them. You can influence them. All these cases, all this stuff, that's what it is. We can influence. And we have, when we gave these lectures here, this is from, and I'll close, April 28, 2011. Before that, April 16th, we gave the Hands Off Libya talk down in Texas. The Hands Off Libya was the one there will be no Arab Spring. On and on. In fact, we had given that before here, because we gave that several times. It ain't going to be no Arab Spring. But in this time, they're talking about it's going to be an Arab Spring. In fact, on February the 11th, they had something in Egypt, and they were saying it's just like in Iran, February 11th. And I told, in 79, I said, no, it ain't. It ain't going to be like, it ain't that, And then we went to explain what it's going to do. So, but the white man, revolution from Egypt to the Americas, right? Oakland and the American Islamic Revolution. Why are they talking about a revolution in Oakland? Do you see it when you drive there? You don't see it. What do they mean? That means the most dangerous Negro in the United States is there, and he's alive, and he's playing with us so much, right? That now psychological guerrilla warfare is work. What did we say? Psychological guerrilla warfare, we're going to make the white man show himself and all that. That's what happened. We're going to make the agents show themselves, and they show themselves. It's just like we say, the crackpot line is open, and they call. The crackpots, the real crackpots. Nobody else called on that line, because it's true, it's a crackpot line. That's just having fun. Okay, I'm going to close with this. Now, there are people around the world that understands this, creating a new civilization of Islam. This right here is the highest person of our time, Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui, the highest intellectual. He was the highest intellectual of our time. Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui. He started what was called a non-territorial government in England and the UK. Non-territorial government. That means Majlis Ashura Islamiyya fi Britannica. They call it the Muslim Parliament. That means the Muslims in Britain at that time was running their own business, but they was not running the territory. That's a new concept. Non-territorial government. Suppose we had one here, where all the Muslims in America ran their own business, right? But they didn't run the territory. That means they ran all their business, collection and distribution of zakat and salah, all that stuff they did. Y'all see what Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui said about me. Remember that? Okay. So now everybody else on there, except the little white man in the corner from Edinburgh, Scotland, Yaqub Zaki, he's the only one on there that acted like he had some sense. Everybody else, he's the little white man from Edinburgh, Scotland. He's he's a historian. I mean, you talk about European history and he got it down pat. So I asked him about William Wallace. I said, did you see the movie Braveheart? He said, no. I said, well, they had the Bruce doing that. And he said, well, it wasn't quite like that. And then he ran down, basically what it was. But anyway, last time I seen him was in Cape Town. We was walking. One guy was walking with him in the front, and one guy was walking with me in the back. And he was ranting and raving against this Crescent stuff. And I heard him, every word he said, but I wasn't ready to move. He was ready to move, or he was disgusted at it. But I didn't say nothing. I just pretended like I didn't hear him. That becomes, you have to have that ability to hear everything, but to implement it when you want. This is a message. Imam Jamil is your friend. He's in prison the rest of his life. This is Imam Luqman. He's dead. Shot 18 or 21 times, Detroit. And this is your dear brother here. This could be your uncle or your brother or what have you. And we're still here. You got to realize we're still here. We're still here. And it ain't no sweat. Eventually, we ask you to give boss man a pass, to look at him the way he is now. Right? If you can look at me and keep me back 100 years ago, right? Look at him the way he is now. Look at his system. Look at his society. Is it crumbling? Is it coming apart? Is it a madhouse? Do it need fixing? What about you and what about your children? What about our historical family? What people going to ask us, in the future? What did you do about all of this? It was a pandemonium. Well, our pandemonium, I duck and cover. That's what they said when they have atomic blast, right? You remember in school, to protect yourself from say a 50 megaton bomb. That's, the fireball is 5 square miles. A 50 megaton bomb. 100 megaton bomb is 10. If they drop one right on you and you want to get away, you duck and get under this desk. That's what they told us. That's what they telling niggas now. Right today, you want to survive this, duck and cover. Just get under here. Right? It's insanity, right? They don't care about you. And since most of y'all is at retirement age, here's a suggestion. Retire from boss man. Make sure get your first check or two. Make sure he's coming through. Then flip over, say goodbye, boss man, and help your dear uncle or your dear whatever it is. Right? Yeah. Everybody is retirement age now. Now, I know they say that I'm just going to read you this and I'm going to close out. Letter of introduction to D.C. churches, because I got a letter of introduction. I passed this same thing out in Oakland. This has been 10 years ago at least, at Allen Temple. That's right here. Our famous church. And see, y'all got it mixed up. Like, y'all think like we got a relative that's a judge in Arkansas. And I heard y'all bragging at Allen Temple, this is my something or other, our relative. He's a judge in Arkansas. Y'all like that. That means because that man is the slowest man. He got to be slow. He's not a criminal, but he knows if you're a judge, you know that you got to send 80% of the Negroes to jail. You were a lawyer, you know the system is corrupt from top to bottom. If you're a judge, you sanction it. I sanction this behavior. Anyway, I'm just going to read to the top to the bottom and then I'll stop. But remember the old Uncle Sam with the hat, I want you? The same thing, we want you. Just remember old Uncle Musa here with his kufi on, I want you. We do, this is not a personal thing, it's collective. All this stuff, you think I can do this stuff by myself? Say 50 years ago, now I know that all the dope stuff, not dope stuff, but all that crime, I got it organized myself. And then I brought everybody in. Same thing in Oakland. I got it organized all by myself. Then I brought everybody else, I brought them in. Same thing with Latin America, with cocaine smuggling. I got it all organized all by myself. Then I brought everybody in. But what happened? Everybody that was a part of that got rich. And if we're going to stick with the pattern, everybody that was ever with me, nobody went to jail except our brother And it was the people in our organization that snitched on him because he came into the organization late and they didn't want him to take their place. So they snitched on him. It's okay. Okay, yeah, okay. Peace be upon those who follow the inspired guidance. That's the way you're supposed to say it to people. My name is Abdul Musa. I'm the minister or pastor at Masjid al-Islam, located on the corner of Benning Road, Southeast Washington, pictured above. We have served Southeast community for over 20 years, that's 30 years now. Before I moved to Benning Road, we were located at 5021 A Streets, and we started we would like to congratulate the Black Church for its historical preservation of our humanity as a people in the face of outstanding obstacles, including slavery, Jim Crow, lynching, burning, the struggle for civil rights, and now destruction of the black family. What I mean by that was the church was the only institution that technically kept us human. We have to admit that. We would have been, after slavery, we would have been, first of all, it kept us pretty much together in slavery. And don't forget, our people were sharp. All the songs, all related to getting away and related to freedom. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. That means that they're going to have to die before they go to heaven and all that. But wade in the water and all that. Wade in the water. God's going to trouble the water. That means the people going to go down to the water, the stream. Dogs can't follow in the stream. Underground Railroad going to be here tonight. You know what I mean? And that's what the songs was relating to. The old master sitting there on the porch, sipping a mint julep. All my darkest sure sound good. Listen to them sing. And they telling them, God's gonna trouble the water. Steal away home. I ain't got long to stay here. Right? The railroad be here tonight. So, steal away all my darkest, Lord, have mercy on my darkest. They sure like they slavery. They love me, right? Can you imagine? They sold themselves on the idea that Negroes liked slavery and they liked him, working. But, you could sell yourself anything. I'm telling y'all, don't sell yourself that lie. And don't buy, look, I'm sorry, it ain't nobody else doing this but us, And I know y'all think this is a hard job. I'm sorry, it's not a hard job. Those who believe in the Quran and those who follow the Jewish scriptures and the Christians and the Sabians, any who believe in Allah in the last day and work righteousness shall have their reward with their Lord, and on them will be no fear nor shall they grieve. So this is to all of y'all still hanging out in the church and all that. Don't worry about that. Those who believe, those who are Yahud, Nasara is y'all, the Christians. The Sabians, those are people that baptized and some kind of die in the old days. Any who believe in Allah in the last day, that's the criterion. Any who believe in Allah in the last day will get their reward from their Lord. This is from the Quran, by the way. A lot of the Muslims don't even know it's there. You don't know him say it. The threats which loom over us today are much greater than ever. We believe that the hope for the future lies in religion. We believe that God has placed us in this position at this time to rescue humanity from humanity. It is clear that the only existing institutions with the capability of taking on such a task are those that are God-centered and mission-orientated. That is, namely, the church and the masjid. Throughout history, when mankind strayed so far from God, the men of God, such as Moses, Jesus Christ, and Muhammad, peace be upon them all, called them to repentance and salvation in Christianity and to shahada or witnessing in Islam. Unlike other ideologies and programs, which often limit themselves to one sphere of human existence, religious institutions provide an all-encompassing program for the individual and collective progress and improvement. They are gifted with all the necessary assets to carry out the great mission of saving humanity. Number one, belief system, vision, and values which emanate from God, righteousness, goodness, and kindness to neighbors. Through this strong foundation, all which is good and wholesome for mankind is worked toward, and the bounties given by God are established. Number two, organizational structure. You'll probably notice alternative resistance, nonviolent resistance, and alternative resistance. Is it new? No, we've had all this stuff planned out for years. We just have to wait for things to move along and catch up. Organizational structure, which provides a framework and lays out the process for realizing high ideals and faith. Number three, of course, the dedicated individuals and material resources that can translate great spiritual principles and values into action. Okay. So if just America, the synagogue, the church, the masjid, can we depend on the government to solve any problems? So far, absolutely not. But suppose the people with the ideology, what is the Muslims and Christianity, adopt the real form. For instance, for Christians, they try to live a life like Jesus. The church become a refuge, right? So if you have a problem, you don't call the police because he might kill you. You call the church. One of several churches, they got a team down there, just like the police got a team. They on call all the time. You know, different teams, of course. And you're having a domestic problem. So you call that team, 2, 3 people. They come and they counsel. They don't have no guns. They don't hold it. They try to talk to people. Most of the stuff you'd be able to calm the situation down. You're no threat. You're not coming there to a Negro's house and telling him what to do in his house. That just make him madder, right? He really mad. Then you almost have to shoot him. Not have to. Okay, no, they do. They come and I'm here to tell you what to do. And he don't want that to happen. Anyway, what about drug use? Okay, you got a drug habit? No problem. We got counselors, right? Suppose we turn a large percentage of all these big churches, just in D.C., into where you can go stay there. Church is a refuge. The only problem is the preachers and the people. The preacher don't know what you're talking about. You mean you want me to do the work like Jesus was saying? Right? That's what you want me to do? That's what my friends tell me. I said, that's a nice BMW. Is that one of them big 740? They all of them got there, you know. They got them for themselves. I didn't mention their names during the transition because they got everything for themselves. This is Pastor so-and-so. Yeah, man, I was just thinking, we could help the city of Oakland. We could help a lot of people, man. We could do this, that, and another. What? Remember our building? Soon as we said we was going to turn the building into, let's say, a homeless thing, boop, Mukhtar sold the building. The government told him to sell. They didn't even give the nigga the money. Like, if he sells something, or if he takes the money out of our account, they don't get that money to him. The government keep that money. Can you imagine? I don't know how much that property was. Let's say, nowadays, let's just say $1 million. They ain't gave him $1 million. If he had $1 million, he'd be in Florida or Mexico somewhere, right? He wouldn't be calling me on the phone. Yeah, I got your money. What you gonna do, right? It's insanity. All right. So, and the Muslims ain't no better. You mean we're gonna give out zakat? We're gonna have people. I said, well, just use, you got 28 satellites, man. Just use 4 or 5 of them. You got an auditorium downstairs. Let the people come in, and the masjid should be a refuge, right? They could stay there, and everybody in had been to college. Some of them are psychiatrists, so we'll teach them and train them about how to live better. Then they can stay there till they get better. Well, I say, yeah, that's good deeds. That's what the Quran tell you to do, right? That's actually what I write, our book, our hadith, and that's what it tell us to do. It's just that nobody wants to do it. As soon as we get ready to do it, I'm telling you could look at the date on the thing. They sold, we're going to have a big, in Oakland, we have a lot of property. The biggest property out there, we was going to turn into, we was going to turn into a 3.5 star, let's call it a homeless shelter. 3.5 stars mean you don't just be loaded in there, the shower's over here, the bunks is over here. No, when the homeless people, what would you like, Mr. So-and-so, for breakfast? Right? You got the towel right over here. You ask them what they take their order. That's the kind of home, that's a 3.5 star homeless shelter. We're gonna move up to 4, but we're gonna start at 3.5. It's simple. Why? They say 65% of the people that are homeless have some contacted psychological and emotional stress. If you treat them like a human being, you're going to solve 40% of that right away, right? For treating them like a human being. And you don't care whether they appreciate it, whether they like you, or whether you're doing it because that's what the job calls for. I'm not going to mention that they should legalize drugs because Muslims don't use drugs. But if we want to make this global transition, they have to legalize drugs because you can't do nothing as long as people using dope and they get all the money anyway. I'm going to move toward a close. So we got the system, we got the people, dedicated individuals that don't want to do the job. But none of our job is a little incy-pincy job. Everything we talk about is serious, you know? Just as the civil rights era, when the church became the foremost vehicle of achieving our goals and dreams, i.e. Dr. King, so today the religious establishment must reach back to its original mission, inherited from the prophets, and make this earth a place worth living in. Our hopes, dreams, and aspirations are very close to yours, so we're being friendly with them. Over the years, we have had the opportunity to represent Islam in speeches and interviews on TV, on radio, and newspapers all over the world, including South Africa, Botswana, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Iran, and all over Europe. We have made friends all over the world, yet in the United States, in the U.S. media, we are branded as terrorists and anti-American. Honestly, Who can terrorize anybody in Southeast D.C.? You know, just imagine you're going to terrorize the Southeast. Well, when this was written, people really did feel nervous about Southeast. Now it's moderating. I've seen a guy across the street, he got an American flag out there, one of them big ones. White guy is right there, yeah. As your neighbors, we testify we have only been an asset here in the Southeast. In other words, we've been an asset. In my travels, I have been steadfast and forthright in explaining the two-war policy of the United States government manufactured by the FBI and the CIA. And I'll close with this. Number one, war on drugs. This is actually a war on black people characterized by the following items: destroying the family and community in which they have been 100% effective. B, taking away constitutional rights and guarantees. C, turning urban centers into police states. D, criminalizing the whole black and Latino community. War against Islam. The Muslim threat is actually meant to achieve the following goals: stopping the global Islamic revival, which has been steadily growing momentum across the world from here to Palestine. B, branding all good works of Muslims as terrorism. C, changing the public image of Muslims from advocates of education and development and social justice to one of terrorists. I might as well read the last. We can say with experience and confidence that the biggest dope dealer and terrorist in the world is the United States government. The U.S. government and its affiliate media, such as Fox News, have consistently used perception management, self-image management techniques to paint us and Islam as an ugly, unrealistic light. These false images hide the truth. The truth is that our community is made up of countless individuals who have witnessed the positive transformational power of Islam, including myself pictured above. Through the mercy of Allah, I was transformed from being the biggest crime boss and drug dealer in Northern California in the 1960s and 70s to become a respected, faith-orientated personality. That is what our people need: transformational power of faith, through which we can turn from being community liabilities to community assets. With this in mind, we look forward to making a new world that Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, peace be upon them all, would be proud of. So this just goes along with the point I'm making is we've been at this point a long time. We've been here, this thing is at least 10 years old. I don't even remember how old. It's way over 10 years old, okay? So's all these other ideas. The thing is now this is the time for us to implement them. Like the other time was time to implement those. And at each stage, we did implement what we was doing. Okay, that's why our famous line is from one of the guys I like, Willie Jolly, whatever his name. A setback ain't nothing but a setup for a comeback. That's nice. That's real colored in its approach. And so every time we have been through some transition, eventually we take a breather, we take a rest, and get a good look at everything. And then we make a comeback. We do it all the time. We've been doing it all our life. I'm saying this is a period right here. This is our, no matter what you think about it, we're already in the process of making a comeback, our own comeback, in our own way and on our own time. And we ask, dear family, y'all join, might as well get on board. This will be fun. Now, it ain't no promises now, But you got to remember, think about it, even when we was doing things in Oakland, I'm the only one ever went to jail, except Buddy, he went once. I'm the only, nobody, South America, all that, everybody, nobody ever went to jail. I don't know how it happened, but I'm the only one ever went to jail. For everything happened in Oakland, I went to jail, nobody else. When I came home from prison, I had to make a speech at the masjid, and I told one of the people that was in our organization, I said, you gotta go do some time, clear up your record, because it don't look good. You can have your top back throwing dope out the window and out the thing all day and never go to jail. I said, that's what I said. I still had a tape, one of them old time tapes. So you got to go do some time. And he went on and he did over a year or so. He just popped up and went on to jail. He didn't have no cases or nothing, but he got one for that. Because everybody, if you do certain things, and I was saying, how am I going to go to jail all the time, and you in the organization right next to me, and you don't never go to jail for nothing? You just don't go to jail. I said, that don't look good. I said, you go do yourself some time, clean up your record. He went to jail too. The people in Oakland probably know who I'm talking about. He went on to jail. Are there any questions, any comments? Okay. Anything else?
There was a couple of comments that came in on Juma. But no, one of them was a shout out to my kids. Someone said children need to be quiet.
No, the kids. Remember years ago, soon as you say comma and everybody would stand up, off they go. At that time, it was tons of kids. That meant everybody was on a roll. They going. Soon as we said, Assalamu alaikum. No, they had it down. Remember, they had it down. Pat, boy, they had it. That's just, they do what they supposed to, I guess. Okay. Okay, then if there's no more questions or comments, does anybody else have anything to add? Okay. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.